Okay, we're live. Good afternoon, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Black women. You've seen the title, Are They Masculine? How Do White and Latin Women Compare? That is a common theme that has been going on among Black male channels, in which we call the Black woman masculine, especially when compared to her white and Latin counterparts. I happen to disagree, so let's talk about it. I'm going to play my intro and we can get into it. Okay, today we have a special guest, Raz, who I'm going to bring up now. And I'm going to drop her Instagram in the comments in case people would like to reach her in thirst. That is fine. We're going to be looking at a old Prince Petty. Oh, did you want to introduce yourself, Raz, or say anything before we start?
Hi, I'm Razan, but you can call me Raz. And yeah, I'm excited to start discussing.
Oh no, we're being watched. Okay, be on your best behavior, please. I will not. No, never mind. Don't. So we're going to look at a young Prince Petty, and we're going to see what my thoughts were um, way earlier this year, back before I put a perm in my hair. And we're going to compare that to what I think now, and we're going to critique that. Raz, at any time, if you need me to pause the video, just say so in the private chat, or you can just unmute and tell me.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to give a couple seconds in case anyone wants to hop on, and let me go ahead and get. And who do they compare them to frequently? Usually they compare them to white women, and they also compare them to Latin women. So that is usually where the conversation stops. It's always a Black man saying Black women are just combative and white women just treat me better. White women are more feminine, Latin women are more submissive, and it stops there. There is no critical thinking about what they are saying. So I would like to take a step over to the white community. And in the white community, when it comes to white women, I feel that white men are creating a community in which their women feel safe and able to rest in their femininity. And that's not to say that the white community doesn't have any violence or rape or murder, anything like that. But compared to the Black community, it is marginally safer. It is what it is. So you have white men who are less violent than Black men are to their women, who are less likely to leave their children once they have them, who are making more money, so they have a better ability to provide, and their women aren't worried about being protected, because compared to the Black community, at least they are being protected a lot better. So the men over there are educated and wealthy. They're staying and taking care of their children. I feel that women can be submissive over there safely. Whereas in the Black community, if you are submitting to a Black man, there's a high probability that you could be left a single mother. There's a high probability that you could be in a violent situation with him. There's a high probability that he could have a felony. He could go to jail, in and out, whatever. So I don't feel that it's fair to compare the Black community to the white community, because if Black women were being submissive like white women were to white men, but to Black men, then I don't think they would be in a favorable situation, which they kind of already are, which is a different conversation. But let's go to the Latin community. In the Latin community, I feel that it's very similar to the Black community. They are a poor community like the Black community is. Just statistically speaking, this is not a dig at any race. When you have less money and when you have less education, typically there's more crime in your community. There's more children who are not as well off. It's dysfunctional. Your community is very dysfunctional when you're a community that is in poverty. It is what it is. So the Latin community, I think, is very similar to the Black community as far as crime rates, as far as having a lack of money and a lack of education. However, the difference, I think, is between how the girls are raised there. In the Black community, yes, I do agree there is a stereotype about the strong, independent woman don't need no man. And I do think that mothers are raising their Black daughters like that, because the mothers have probably been let down or disappointed or failed by a Black man. So they are letting their daughter know, you better go to school, you better get your education, you better get your money, because you will not be able to depend on a Black man. I did, he failed me, my mother did, my grandpa failed her. Black men are not taking care of the women in this community. Black men are violent to the women in this community. You need to get your own money. You need to get your own education, find a good career, so that you are not dependent on a Black man, because he will fail you and you will become a statistic. Whereas over in the Latin community, even though they have a lot of crime like we do, and even though they're not educated or making money like we do, the Latin women are taught to cook and clean for this man. They're taught from a young age to submit to Latin men. So if he's cheating, beating you, if he's having kids out of your relationship with other women, then just submit to this anyway. You are the woman, he is the man, and he is the provider, and you must submit to this man. You must serve him, and you must have his children. So that's the difference, I think, between the Black and the Latin community. Latin women are taught, even if he's doing wrong, you submit to him no matter what. That's the man. Black women are taught, you are not going to submit to filth. If you find a good man, cool, but do not be dependent on a man, because they are failing the community. So okay, so has everything that Past Petty said been clear? Do I need to clarify anything for you, Raz, or do you understand what this young man was saying?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, I'm gonna clarify for you. So, to summarize, in the Black community, there is an expectation of submission without actually doing anything, which is how I feel it is in the Latin community based on the Latin women and men I spoke to before I made that video. In the white community, I feel like the men have created a safe community so their women can be feminine and they can submit without being killed or left a single mother. In the Black community, we haven't done that, so you don't really have an option to rest in your femininity. And instead of Black men doing what white men do and making a community where the women can be safe, it seems like they want to move backwards, like the Latin community, where I don't have to do anything, but you will submit to me anyway. That is it. That is the summary. Raz, what is your take on this?
Um, hmm. I mean, I have to really gather my thoughts. Hold on, let me read this comment.
You do not have to read the comments. Do not look at these
Oh,
comments. Now you can look at them. I'm hoping nobody is twerking. I'm gonna go through them very quickly. Yes, I was a lot bigger back then, Themis. I actually had several 100,000 subscribers on my other channel, but not on this one. I also put a link in the comments if anyone would like to come up and question this young man. Raz, while you collect your thoughts, I'm going to let a little bit more of the video play to see if this young man has some more wisdom for us.
for sure. Yeah, let my thoughts collect.
Black men, it seems like, remember I referenced Kevin Samuels and Fresh and Fit early in this live. It seems like they don't want to become like the white community. They don't want to get themselves to a financial level where they're able to be providers. They don't want to educate themselves. They're not worried about the crime in the community. They're not worried about the fact that they're killing the women, they're killing the children, they're killing other Black men. They are more worried about your submissiveness. So it doesn't seem like Black men are trying to do what white men are doing for white women. It seems like they want Black women to be more like Latin women. That way, the Black men don't have to do anything. You will just submit to me anyway. So I think that is kind of backwards. And this isn't a dig at the Latin community. I did speak with some Latin women, and here are some things they had to tell me. And this is anecdotal. This is their own experience. So take it with a grain of salt. But this was pretty much the sentiment that I was getting from a lot of Latin women. She said, this is a Latin girl. She said, I guess toxic masculinity within Mexican households affects a lot of mindsets of Mexican women and how we continue in life. For example, women doing all household chores, cooking, cleaning, looking after children. Men are expected to do much with home life. I think that affected me personally because I had to cook, clean, and look after my siblings at a really young age. I had to grow up a lot quicker and didn't have much of a childhood. We are expected to be this and why we are depicted this way in most movies and TV shows. And she said she still finds herself feeling that way, feeling the need to have everything cooked and clean for her significant other, despite how tired she is. So let's talk about that a little bit. She is saying that the men do not do housework. They don't do household chores or childcare and stuff like that, which is normal in every community. But she goes on to say that she will be coming home from work tired after a long day and still finding herself wanting to do this. What this implied to me is that she's also working, but after she goes out and does the financial thing, 50-50, right? She comes home and does 100% of the household chores for the man. So this doesn't feel like a true 50-50 situation to me. This feels like the woman is doing a lot more house care while she's splitting 50-50 with you on finances, maybe. So that's not something I think would be ideal for the Black community and something that we should strive for. And that's not something I feel that the Black men should want their women to do. Again, she said the Latin men were not expected to do much. You were simply existing, and existing as a man in the Latin community is enough to get a submissive woman who's cooking and cleaning for you, who's serving you, and who's having your children. And a lot of Latin women, even though Black men praise these Latin women for, oh yes, submissive and feminine this, most Latin women that I've spoke to, at least, and again, this is anecdotal, but most Latin women I spoke to want to move away from this mindset. They literally do not want to be serving men who are not serving them. And what it seems like they want to move towards is what Black women do. More Latin women, I think, are wanting to get their education and wanting to get their own careers so that they are not financially dependent on a man to provide and protect them. That way, they won't have to submit to a man who, like she says, is doing nothing. And then I also... So to comment on what Fox said, in my subjective opinion, some non-Black women aren't all that feminine. They are just called sassy instead of masculine. I would agree. There are a lot of white and Latin women who do behaviors that Black men call masculine in Black women. One of those things is having an education or a career field, which I think most white women do typically, even more so than Black women, I think, statistically speaking. But this is not something that they associate with masculine energy when it comes to dating white and Latin women. It's only when they date Black women. I'm not sure why. Um, Having a stable life and having education and finances is masculine, but the part of the video I won't show is where I said if stuff like having a degree and having finances is masculine, then yes, I would agree Black women are masculine because they're doing all that. And in comparison, Black men are looking a little feminine right now. Right now, where is the woman who said that? So this video was like several months ago. She didn't want to come on stream. That's why I said in the beginning of the video, if anybody wants to come up, you can. She didn't, but she did send me a little note that I read from, where she gave me her idea of what it's like in the Latin community. And like I said, yes, if those things that we call submissive, like taking care of your man and literally giving yourself to him, and taking care of his household and his children, she said she does do all of that. Her sisters do all of that. Her nieces, cousins, and family do all of that. And that's what her mother instilled in her, regardless of how the man is acting and what he's providing to the household. But from every Latin woman I spoke to, and this is anecdotal, so take it with a grain of salt, they want to move away from that, and they want to move towards something kind of like what Black women do, where it's like your mother instilling you that you need to have your independence, get your degree, get your education and finances up so that you can take care of yourself, because nobody else is, apparently. Raz, if you had anything to, yeah, having a home lately also, Raz, we learned that having a home is masculine. So I've decided not to date women with homes because it's just too much dummy mommy energy. Can't do it. Taking care of yourself is masculine. You would think so, the way that the men describe, excuse me, the way that Black men specifically describe it, you would think that just having your shit together is masculine. It's very interesting. Do you have anything, Raz?
Um, so we've heard like your thoughts, like your younger self, but I'm curious like what additional information you have to add now, or what critiques would you give that version of yourself to that conversation? Like basically what is the difference in mentality?
So actually, back then, everything that I was saying, I don't feel like I had conviction in. After several months of speaking amongst Black men and women, I feel like I have confirmed a lot of ideas that I discussed in that video. So I actually feel like I'm very close, if not the exact same mindset that I had back then. Um, Now, you were telling me a little bit offline about this type of history of not only masculinization but dehumanization that Black women have faced in America. Did you want to expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think that this just started like obviously this is a conversation that we've been having a lot more lately because it's in the media more, but it does have, especially in America. And I know with you I talked about like how women who are from the continent are, but I don't want to talk about that right now because that's very different. But specifically about the history of Black women in America, um, it goes back like this masculinization, this idea of masculinization goes back at least 100 years. And I talked about the case of Reese Taylor, who a lot of people don't know about that case, but basically she got sexually assaulted by a group of several men, and her case was dismissed because Black women at the time, and honestly until this day, were not seen as rapeable. And so I think that the masculinization of Black women currently in society is kind of an extrapolation of that. It's kind of a way of dehumanizing Black women, and a way of, well, if they're masculine, then being harmed, then being assaulted, then being abused is less detrimental to them because they have quote unquote thicker skin, or they're more masculine so they can handle more abuse. That's kind of where I was coming from.
Okay, so I did want to quickly put this comment up on the screen. There are tropes like strong Black women that perpetuate the stereotype. I don't think that Black women are necessarily masculine. Non-Black women also have successful careers, build wealth, etc. So I want to clarify. I don't think that black women are masculine. I don't think having career, having a home, building wealth, and stuff like that is masculine. I do think that black men typically ascribe masculinity to those qualities. And maybe you're right. Actually, I do think you're right. It is specifically to black women. It's like a stereotype they only put on black women, even when other communities of women do the exact same thing. But yes, if you're what I was saying earlier, if you're going to say something like providing for your family or your household, taking care of your children, having wealth, having education, and like you're saying, successful career, and you're going to say that is masculine, if that is what your definition of masculine is, which this is aimed towards the black men, then yes, I would say black women are masculine. Again, like I said earlier, I think this is due to a failure from the men to create a community where black women don't have to achieve all this stuff and they can have a man do it for them, but the men are not. So there is no option. If you want yourself and your children and community taken care of, there is no option, in my opinion. But no, I don't think that stuff is masculine. And twerking in the chat, twerking in the chat is very masculine. Please do. Only if you're a man. Only if you're a man. Did you have anything on that, Raz? That last comment, or did you want me to put it back up?
It's okay. I don't have comments.
So you were describing a time where black women were seen as not human, even in, I'm not sure if you brought it up, but was this during a time where white women were seen as, because I understand women in general historically in America have not been seen as something outside of property. So is this a woman thing or is this a black woman thing specifically?
I think it started off as a woman thing, but I also think that when feminists, especially like with first wave feminism, when it came into play, a lot of people kind of began to exclude or create a division between white women and black women and other races of women as well. Um, and like I just feel like a lot of white women at the time, as historically even, were not fighting really for the rights of black women. So women, I don't know how to say this, but they were in a sense lumped as one. Their problems were lumped as one, as a collective. But a lot of our issues that were unique to us as black women at the time were not addressed because we obviously require certain things need to be addressed, and they just weren't because everything was lumped as one. Everything, like at the time, things were just focused on misogyny, but no one addressed racism. No one addressed things that were unique to the black community or the Latin community or the Asian or whatever community of color at the time. And so the divide started very early on into feminism. Um, and I think that, and honestly, a lot of it has to do with racism and white supremacy being ingrained. So I think it definitely started off as a women thing, but then the divide just slowly separated. So now that's why we say white feminism, because there's a lack of intersectionality, and it's always been there.
So that would be like the Jezebel spirit stereotype, wouldn't it? I'm not too familiar with the names of each, but this kind of black women are not really human. She's here to bewitch you and she's sexualized and something like that.
Yeah, that definitely was very much, I mean, it's still predominant, but definitely more predominant at the time. Like I said, with the whole Reese Taylor situation, that was actually a big thing, is like when um when her sexual assault was publicized, because it was publicized at the time and it was before the civil rights movement. um Her family was also very scared of her reputation being ruined as a result of this case being publicized. um and the community at the time gathered and were like, no, she's not like a prostitute, she's not, like, she was a good woman. They tried to really maintain her image. um but again, she was still masculinized, she was still dehumanized, and she, unfortunately, like, her case was used almost as a way to publicize the situation and kind of create a sense of empathy to the community. But when it died down, she she really didn't benefit from anything being publicized. If anything, like, I don't know if I'm making sense, but like she didn't really benefit the way, like, for example, I even feel like, and maybe this is an aside, but even the way that black women and men were treated at the time was very different. Like there was a focus on black men's liberation, but black women were always set aside. So this is very much something that has been going on since the beginning of time, or since the beginning of civil rights, at least.
So I have two questions. I have recently been listening to Themis, if he's still in the chat. And you guys can come up as well. This is an open panel if anyone would like to ask me or Raz question or just comment on what we've talked about. But he kind of describes Black Lives Matter and how it is posed as a movement for the black community when in reality it mostly is for black men and sometimes can even hurt black women by kind of pushing black male on black female crime under the rug so that we have a good image when it comes to, I guess, protecting ourselves from white men. um, and I thought about that due to what you were saying about Reese Taylor. And I also thought about what you said regarding this time period where now white women are starting to be seen as human. So if your husband assaults you or just a random man assaults you, now you have legal recourse, and they can take, what is it? Not criminal action, but he can be punished through the justice system. Whereas if you're a black woman and you're being assaulted by, I guess these were black men, but regardless of race, I guess if you're being assaulted by anyone, then you don't really have access to that same legal recourse. And I was thinking about this kind of stereotype where black men also not seen as like aggressive sexually and something like a Mandingo stereotype. Again, I'm not familiar with the names, but were black men also back then considered something like that?
That's a good point that you brought up. I This discourse really like was brought up to me personally when I took a women's and gender studies class and we talked about race. So at the time, yes, black men were actually also a victim of this dehumanization in a very different way. Obviously, they weren't subject to misogyny the way that black women were, but they were sexualized, they were hypersexualized, and they were viewed as aggressive. And even when you look at like cases of Emmett Till, like that's a prime example of how a black child was seen as aggressive, um, at no fault of his own. He was just a kid. But yeah, so definitely, I think it at least started out as going both ways, and then I think that as more black men got support, black women were kind of left behind, and until this day, now we're still trying to get support in a societal sense, and you know, here we are.
Okay, so there's kind of this stereotype where black men are extremely aggressive and sexual. And I feel like not only does this hurt black men when they deal with white women, obviously, like you brought up Emmett Till, but also within the community, like you described with Reese Taylor, and probably several more cases that I've never heard of. Because before you brought that to my attention, like you said, I've never heard of that. Um, there's kind of this excuse where I guess the white man is going to look at you fighting among yourself like animal and say, well, that's just how they are, right? Kind of reduced to this black man is an aggressive animal that has a sexual drive, and the black woman is not human. So for the black man to take advantage of her, who cares? Unless, of course, he's going to the white community to do it with their women, in which case we saw how Emmett Till ended. Now, do you think it was a fair comparison for me when I compared a situation like this to Black Lives Matter in the present, where there's kind of this sweeping under the rug of black men's behavior towards black women in favor of, I guess, can't we all get along?
Yeah, I do think that black people's issues with the Black Lives Matter movement has kind of again been lumped in one. And of course, there are several similarities between black men and black women's struggles. But there's at least in the Black Lives Matter movement, this is my main critique of it, is there's always this focus of the black man's the victim, the black man's the one who's getting killed or getting assaulted, or there's this intrinsic fear from law enforcement that's invoked in the black man. And that is true. I'm not ever going to take away from that. But I think that there's such a hyper focus on that that Black women's association with law enforcement or in the public or in society, as well as Black women's maltreatment within the Black community is something that is very much swept under the rug. So I do agree with that. I think it is fair to compare because it's still an issue that we're dealing with, and it's still something that a lot of Black women have spoken out about, but unfortunately there is not enough urgency from Black men, um, and there's not enough of them bringing this up or seeing this as an issue because a lot of them unfortunately have developed, and please don't take this the wrong way, a victim complex, because there seems to be more support for Black men because of Black Lives Matter movement, and like a complete disregard for Black women's issues.
I think the example that was posed to me was the fact that for people like Breonna Taylor, who also suffer crime at the hands of the police in that instance, there has to be an entirely separate movement from Black Lives Matter, which I think would say her name for her to even get any recognition. Um, so I see you there. My next question would be in regards to, again, Black Lives Matter. Do you think, let me see how I want to phrase this. Let me pose it in this way. I was thinking back on George Floyd and the entire situation in which there is just widespread protest and public outrage at this man's death, which police brutality I do not stand for. And while I am not the type of person to look at a man's history and say that his history is justification for him to be, police come in, judge, jury, and executioner, I can't help but look into his record and see that he is extremely harmful in his life towards Black women specifically. Do you think it is in Black women's benefit to go to these protests and stand behind Black Lives Matter and raise their fist up and do the whole we stand together thing when not only is this particular man, but I've noticed a pattern with some of the people who Black Lives Matter hold up, but just staying on George Floyd specifically and others like him, is it in Black women's best benefit to go out and protest and march for a man who has a history of being extremely violent towards them? Especially when after you go out and march during that protest, like we've been discussing literally this whole live stream, you may be called a masculine woman. You may be called operating in your masculine energy out here marching and fighting for Black men instead of, I guess, resting in your femininity at the home or whatever have you.
I think for Black women in this situation, because I do know that he has a history of violence and like criminal history, I think as well. Um, and I think that women should have, or Black women should have the choice and the autonomy of saying, hey, and no, I don't feel comfortable marching for this man who wouldn't have cared about my life or my autonomy or my consent if he was alive. However, I also think that um, I I don't want to say like we should turn a blind eye. I don't think we should. But I also think that the issue of police brutality should still be addressed regardless of that person's history. He was still a victim of police brutality, and that shouldn't have happened. And regardless of his history, that's still not going to change. He still got killed for something that he didn't do anything to deserve to die. Now, if he was, you know, being beat up for being a sexual predator, I would not care. But that's not why he died. He died at the hands of the justice system. So at that point, it's hard. It's hard for me. It's almost like I'm torn. Like yes, I would like to march for this person or speak out for this person who died at the hands of law enforcement, but at the same time, I personally didn't say much about it because I knew this history, and honestly, it was a little triggering. So I kind of just, I obviously like wasn't okay with him dying or okay with him being a victim, but at the same time, it's very difficult. So I think that Black women should be, I guess, given a pass if they don't feel comfortable marching for a man. Or there's also multiple others. There was, I don't remember his name, but there was a different person who died at the hands of police who also had very violent history, and he was also being called out about it, and a lot of women who called him out. There's a lot of backlash from Black men when they called him out, saying that, you want us to die, you don't, like just lots of back and forth. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I just feel like Black women should have the right to be like, hey, I don't want to be involved in this, and that's okay.
So you think it should just be individual base by base? Because again, I'm not justifying his death because of his past. In fact,
Yes.
I think it has nothing to do with the situation at all. My qualm is more, I was one of the people who were out at the protest in Atlanta years ago when this was going on.
Hmm.
And to later on find out his history, again, I do feel like police brutality is a worthy cause to be marched for. I do think it affects Black men specifically more than any other demographic in America.
That's true. Yeah.
But I find it discouraging when I go out and march for someone and find out he is threatening to kill a Black woman and her child, or he has assaulted Black women in the past. And I'm like, is this the figure I want? Maybe my qualm is with, how do I navigate this when the people who are being murdered, who we are marching for, have such a problematic and violent history, specifically towards Black women, usually, unfortunately. And I guess your answer was, this is kind of a individual to individual thing where you will just have to converse among yourself and your
Yeah.
spirit and mental to see if you are able to do that.
Hmm.
Um, just to go through a few of the comments. Yeah, I do think Black Lives Matter is like very specifically towards Black men and police brutality,
I
which I
agree.
think it should be.
Hmm.
Well, mm, I do think it should be because in the past, white people have said to me, well, if Black Lives Matter so much, why don't Black Lives Matter talk about Black on Black crime? And my answer has always been, in my opinion, Black Lives Matter is a organization where you address police brutality and racism among the police force specifically. So, in that case, is it even fair for me to be mad that they don't talk about Black on Black crime, including Black male on Black women? The Floyd situation is complicated because his murder was symbolic of a system of oppression that targets Black people and disregard our humanity. Um, Absolutely, I think, again, I'm having this kind of struggle between, I want to do things to fight systemic oppression. Obviously, I that affects me, that affects my community, and I do think it's a problem. But I think Themis actually said this yesterday. Is this the biggest problem in my community when the same man I'm marching for is being extremely problematic and deadly towards my own people? Excuse me,
Hmm.
towards his own people, our own people. Hey, Concern. Hey, Nia. Hey, Marvel. I don't know how you guys got over here, but they are here. Did you have anything to add? I wanted to play the last little bit of that old video, and then I think I'll pack us up. And again, if anybody wants to come up, add their idea to the discussion, comment on anything we've said, or have any questions, you are free to. I think the link is pinned, but I'll drop it in the chat real quick.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. I just think that, like you said, like we already implied, that it's hard to fight systemic racism, or yeah, or anti-blackness, and then also fight things that are happening within our community. And like, it's hard to just like weed out the people like, we can't just be like, let's not talk about black people being murdered by the police because this person's problematic. It's not productive. So yeah, it's hard because I'm also torn, but that's all I have to add.
Okay. Invincible, the discussion today is, are Black women masculine? How do white and Latin women compare? That is the topic. If you would like to add anything to that prompt, or anyone else, I'm going to play the last little bit of this video and then we can get out of here. Do we think it's only men like George Floyd that can end up in this situation? Sandra Bland had no priors. Yeah, again, my issue is not with police brutality. I guess my issue is with some of the figures who we use for it and the expectation. Again, I think, Raz, you were saying you were maybe bringing some of this stuff up to your friends in regards to George Floyd and how he was extremely problematic, deadly towards black women, and you were kind of dismissed by your friends. I don't know if they were black, white, or whatever. You were dismissed like, why are you trying to make this man seem bad? Did I hear you correctly earlier?
Not my friends. It was just comments that I've seen, saying that, black women would bring up this idea that or this fact that he was violent towards black women, but then then they had a lot of backlash in the comments or wherever this was being said. And so it's just hard to address his problematic past when people are like grieving or processing the fact that he was killed by police. It's hard to have those conversations at the same time.
That seems extremely dismissive to me, though. Well, I'm not, but you are a black woman and you are discussing your I guess being upset with this man's problematic history towards you. Literally, it's you are the demographic who he was harmful for. And to have that dismissed, to instead say, well, come out here and march for him anyway, that seems problematic to me. That actually reminds me of Kevin Samuels passed away. Wow, it's been a while now. Um, but after Kevin Samuels passed away, even though he had this extremely problematic history towards black women and way of speaking about them, degrading them, and devaluing them and their success and contribution to society, after he died, there is this expectation I see from black men for black women to literally come in, feel sorry for this man, and give him his praise and his flowers after he has done all this damage. And if you bring up any of that damage that he did, it's like, oh, well, don't speak ill of the dead, or oh, well, he was trying to help, or that doesn't mean you can blah, blah, blah. It's like, it seems discouraging for me to feel sympathy for a man in that position when I try to bring up the wrongdoings he's done to me and it's dismissed. But those are just my feelings about it.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's very similar, and like even like people didn't like Bill Cosby even or R. Kelly, like when people, and rightfully there's literally proof that these are disgusting men, but there was so many black men giving up black women specifically so much backlash for calling them out. Like, oh, you're trying to ruin the image of a black man. He's still a black man who's going to jail. Like, that's not what we're discussing here. So yeah, it is very dismissive, unfortunately, but um that's why I don't like to be involved in those situations for my own peace of mind. Unless it's on a platform like this, then it's fine.
Maybe black men should march for him and black women should just chill and not have expectation to go march for him, which are my thoughts. That's just my thoughts. Marvel, don't slum it up. Is Marvel being bad in the comments? Marvel, are you doing something bad in the comments? They're passing me by. Not to mention public figures like J. Cole trying to tone police women about bringing up his history with black women. Yeah, it's like, well, J. Cole's biracial, I think. So not technically black, but there's, again, as we discussed, this need for black women to shut up, sit down when it comes to these black men abusing you. And as a matter of fact, go march for them. I don't know why. We need black women's lives matter. Actually, Raz, do you know why? Because I said I don't know why. Do
Don't
you
know
know
why
why?
what.
There's this need in the case of, I think she wrote this comment about George Floyd. There's this need for you, a black woman who he has harmed in the past, to sit down and shut up and police your tone and don't talk about that, leave it out when it comes to discussing these issues. And there's also an expectation for you to march for him from black men. Why?
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with like enforcing the patriarchy of like, you were already quiet this whole time. Like, why can't you continuously just be submissive and support us because we need you? Because we need you to march for us. Because without you, it's almost as if it's just a bunch of black men. Like it's more valid. Like we'll be taken more seriously if a collection of black people are involved. But we don't care about you addressing your own issues. It honestly, it's like I think that's a big reason why is they just want their argument to be validated. And with us being present at these protests, at these discussions, or at these functions, they're they feel like they can do and say things with more conviction with our presence.
Black women hold some power. Somebody told me if black women stopped going to Black Lives Matter protests, the protests would be empty because the men don't even go like that.
True.
This is the Rosa Parks effect. I believe the first woman who refused to yield her seat on a segregated bus was a pregnant teen. If I recall correctly, she was not the right kind of symbol. Yes, you are correct. I forgot her name, but there was a black woman who didn't give up her seat. Not only was she a pregnant single mother because that man abandoned her and her child, but she was also dark skinned. And I believe, I don't know what it was, the coalition of Negro, I don't know, but they did not want that type of image, and they did not think they would be taken seriously, which is interesting to me because as we describe George Floyd and his problematic history, as we describe other men who I won't mention when it comes to Black Lives Matter who have problematic history, there's like, no, sweep it under the rug. This is about police brutality. We don't need to talk about that stuff. But Black women are not afforded that same luxury, which is unfortunate. I think even Martin Luther King has some dirt that was uncovered lately. He was cheating, which is crazy because when we bring up the cheating, it's like, well, look at the good stuff he did. It's like not even no, he didn't. It's like, well, she could have left if she didn't want to be cheated on. That was the civil rights leader. Why are you trying to make him look bad? I'm not trying to make him look bad. I think the cheating makes him look bad. I brought it up, but anyway. What is going on with Marvel in the Let me find out something's going on here. What you say doesn't mean anything. You're just an angry, hateful woman. It looks like you're slumming it up. You beat me to the punch. Marvel, please click the link and come up because I don't know what's going on or why we are calling out women on this particular live stream. Maybe I missed it in the comments. So please do come up and voice your concern to me. You may address me since I'm the man here instead of the woman in the comments. Thank you. The last man who was killed by his girlfriend, black women did a social media scrub and uncovered his anti-blackness, then proceeded to stand down. Yeah, wasn't that, I can't even pronounce his name. I think he was like foreign, but he got killed by the white lady. And then we find out, oh, he has a history of slandering black women. You masculine black woman. I'm so glad I have my feminine white lady. That's so crazy to me, but whatever. I personally am not responsible for the social image of black men. I don't think you should be. I think, oh, this is Erica. Hey, Erica. I don't think I said hey to you earlier, but Erica has her own channel, Anybody Watching, where she frequently talks about decentering men, specifically for black women. So I would recommend y'all decenter black men. I don't think black women should be responsible for the image. We clearly drew the line. Let me not go through all the comments. I think some of these are petty. Did you have anything, Raz, before I play the rest of the video?
I just want to say I agree with Erica about like us not being responsible for the image of anyone, honestly. But specifically the image of black men. And I think like if we don't have the capacity to uplift our own, I mean, I just feel like we shouldn't have so much responsibility on our backs all the time because we already have so much of that already. So yeah, I think that there is this weird trope or this need for us to protect black men's image, and I really don't think that's our responsibility at all. So I agree.
Okay, I'm going to quickly play the rest of this video. I see you in the back, Marvel. After I play the video and we discuss it, we'll have a quick after show where me and Marvel can talk. Let me bring that up. With a black woman. And what the black woman told me was nearly verbatim what I said at the beginning of this video. She was cooking and cleaning for her man. She was serving him. She was actually the breadwinner in the relationship, making most of the money. She was also taking care of this man like a child. She was having his children as well and taking care of them. So it's like she's doing 100% of the finances, or at least the majority. And she's also doing 100% of the household chores. And she's also doing 100% of the childcare. It seems like black women are muling while black men are just, I don't know if they're struggling to catch up, if black women are outpacing black men. I don't know what's going on, but it seems like black men are kind of going backwards instead of forward. And when black women get online and say, hey, we want our men to do better, right? I have a degree, I'm a PhD, I have a master's, I'm very educated, I'm very intelligent, I have a nice career, I'm making 6 figures, I'm in the top 5% of earners, I'm an entrepreneur, I created my own business, I'm creating black jobs in the black community, right? Black owned business. It seems like black women are quite literally building. And their request is simply, I want a man who's on my level. I make 6 figures. I want a guy who's here. I'm educated. I want a guy who's here. I don't want to lower my standards. But black men as a collective, instead of saying, okay, we will rise to the occasion, are saying, well, your PhD doesn't matter to me. I'm a man. Your career doesn't matter to me. I'm a man. Why do I care about your money? I just want feminine and submissive like white girls and like Latin girls. So this, I feel like, is kind of destructive to the black community when it seems like the black women are outpacing the men. And the men, when they see this, instead choose to chastise these women to the point where Kevin Samuels has a whole video talking about, you are average at best. Your career means nothing. Your degree means nothing because you're not pretty and you're not feminine. And now they are leaf blowing outside of my home. At this point, a leaf blower comes and they start cutting grass and doing weird stuff outside my window at like 2:30. Let me see when that ends. Again, I feel that in the white community, right? If a white girl is saying, hey, I have a degree, I have an education, I have a job, I want a man who's on my level. If a white man can't meet her at her level, he just goes to find a girl who's on his level. In the black community, when this black girl is saying, I want to meet a man on my level, you have the entire community of black men telling her, you actually don't deserve that. You're actually average. You need to settle. So this is a problem. I think it's going backwards. There's movements for black women to divest, to swirl and leave the black men behind because black men are not competing with other men like they should be, and instead seem to want to compete with black women. And what can I say to a black woman who wants to leave the black community, right, when the black community is not treating her well and she's doing better elsewhere? So that is the extent of that topic. I'm going to give about 30 seconds to see if anyone wants to join. Nobody joined. We don't have to play the rest. Any comments on that rest? I see something interesting in the comments.
Not necessarily, but we can interact with the comments.
Okay, so something I saw in the comments. QB said, I didn't hear anyone call Mama Knows. I think that's Beyonce's mom. Masculine for taking on racism in her documentary. So colorism undermines the racism fight. Raz, have you seen, is it Tina Knowles? Have you seen her documentary?
No, I haven't.
I saw a trailer for it. It was like, why do people say black men don't take care of their kids? And why do people say that black men are killers? They're not. It was just coddling. It was just coddling. Let me not. Just a lot of coddling of black men. The killing and absentee fathers is just the system, and it's not even that bad. They're just trying to make it seem bad or something like that. It was very much coddly. It was giving mammy. Maybe that's the wrong word, but it was giving mammy.
That's the right word.
Hey, Dria's here. I'm also going to add Valerie. Valerie,
hey, how are you? How are you?
I think your mic might have a slight. Oh, never mind. That's fine. It was TV in the background.
Yeah, I was gonna say in terms like of the Latin community, really, to be quite honest, they tend to hold the same, I guess, the same racial views as like white American speakers, and the same thing as Latin American speakers. Like I'm Haitian, okay, so there. I mean, for me, I could say as a Haitian, and we've been travel. We are in many different Latin American countries. Like we're in Mexico, we're in Chile, we're in Brazil, we're in Cuba, we're in Dominican Republic. Most Haitians speak Spanish. And I can tell you one of the reasons why most Hispanic people, like especially in DR, they don't want to see Haitians is because one, we're black, that's one. And they will say that they're lazy and they can't get their country together and why they have to come and sponge off of us. That's another thing. Then you have the foreign black man. I'm also Haitian, so I'm also kind of um, in a like somewhere in the middle between all the countries. So then you have the foreign black man who is like maybe the African or whatever that travels to these countries to be intimate with these more poverty stricken Latino women. So in my mind, there are a good amount of black men that still that practice the white man's perception of woman, meaning like the black woman is the one he's with and he struggled with. The Latin woman is where he travels to have intercourse. And the white woman is the one, well, if he gets better, he'll move on up and kind of do a hypergamous thing. He'll get more money and access. So that's my
Wait,
opinion.
is it your opinion that black men date white women as kind of like a come up,
Of course they do. Of course they do.
financial
It,
education
it,
like that?
it, it's a come up and it's also sometimes internal dislike of one's appearance, the need to want to have mixed babies, even though, to be quite honest, you will find that there are Haitians that have mixed babies that go to DR, but they don't ever marry some of these women, or Nigerians that have mixed babies, Obama, and leave them behind. So I mean, the degeneracy is actually wide scope, but I will tell you, because I watch Telemundo para Siempre all day, that on Spanish TV, if you see a black man on TV, he is either the thug, the slave, or something else. And most people who will let you date a Latino person, like a Latino daughter, something like that, their fathers, their mothers are like, why did you bring this NIGR here? We don't do that. We're trying to improve the race. That's what, but most black men probably don't understand the language. And even if they do, because they kind of want to be accepted so much into it, they'll accept it, basically. So
So I actually disagree that black men date white women for a financial come up. I do think they do it as like a social come up, but I would actually think that they date black women as a financial come up. And then once they are built up to the man that they want to be, now they go over to white women and use that wealth to attract those women. So now I don't know if they're dating
I think
wealthy white women or just average or low class white. I don't know. Um,
I think
but I
it
think that's the
depends
only place.
on. Sorry.
You go
And I
ahead.
was gonna say, I think it depends on your social class, right? So like you'll have maybe like the dark skinned Haitian guy that marries the Haitian Syrian girl that is from a really good family and has good um that will give you access to a lot of things, like, it's a big family, they own all these things and all this and such like that. So they do gain one social, but because the woman is in a good family, right, they will also gain inheritance, which is why I didn't even understand the guy yesterday about on Themis talking about no house, because I'm assuming that most black men, if they date a white woman in the United States, they probably are usually dating a woman who has money. Like most of the Haitian guys that I know that are married to a Haitian woman come from really good families, like Italian woman, white American, like they have land and everything. So I don't that what he was saying didn't really make sense. I think it's more so because in that person's mind, a black woman should not have more than him. It's okay for a white woman to have more, to somewhat evolve him into something new. But it is not okay for him in his mind, you being a black woman or oneg, as they would say in the Haitian language, like the audacity of you to have more than me, to be equal to me, you shouldn't have it because you are a field woman, right? And like someone in that, there's somewhat of a subconscious of that.
So I'm not going to push back, as you saw from the comments I put on the screen. Um, they are like, it can be both. Black men can be using them as both a social and financial come up. And I, of course, don't have the statistics behind me to just pull up and say you're wrong. So I'm going to concede that point. And I just wanted to give people a quick notification. I think Vitamin Q is starting her live stream now over at Level Up Single Mom. If you guys did want to hop over there and show her some love, I'm gonna try and put her link in the comments as well. But yeah, based on what the comments are saying, Valerie, yeah, Black men are definitely hypergamous, even when they date out of the community. So I will not disagree with you there. And that's all I have to say about that. Raz, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that the discussion has been very productive, and it's nice hearing all the different opinions, and everyone's respectful and nice, and yeah.
Okay. Check the Discord for the clip, London link. With that being said, we got about 4 minutes until we hit exactly an hour on my stream. I'm going to play my outro, and then we can have a short after show. Marvel, I'm going to bring you up now as well. Okay, Marvel, what's going on, buddy? Raz, Valerie, you are both welcome to leave. You can also stay. I don't mind.
Hey, Prince Petty, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Marvel?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good.
Tell me about what's going on in the comment section, Marvel. Has someone hurt you?
Nah, it's nothing serious. One of the women in there, she's how can I say it? She kind of likes to, I guess, get under people's skin. You can't really take that stuff serious. I don't really get it. It doesn't really bother me.
So are you saying your comments were just jokes?
Yeah, I mean, I've joked with her before. It's just joke. I mean, maybe hers are not jokes, but mine, I don't have any bad intentions or anything like that.
Are you
That's
talking
not.
about, are you talking about Nia X?
Yeah. She does the same thing when I go to another person's stream, and I don't take it serious.
Now Nia said you were crying, but she said you were joking. So
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like, I guess the reason why I'm like this is because I know it's brothers that's experiencing hard times with Black women, but I haven't experienced those hard times. I've had a lot of great experiences through my life with Black women. If anything, I've had not such great experiences with other races of women. So whenever I come onto a stream, I don't naturally come onto that stream being angry, being combative, being, feeling like something is wrong, because I don't look at Black women in that way. Every Black woman that's ever really been a part of my life has done well by me. I mean, there might be, there may be the couple of cases where it might have been something minor that we didn't agree on, but besides that, my mother, all the women I've dealt with over the time of my life, my cousins, my god sisters, people that really mean a lot to me, they're all Black women. And I don't come onto anything. I don't come into a stream just naturally being angry and wanting to just be combative towards Black women. I don't have that hostility.
I'm going to quickly cut you off I'm going to extend grace, because this is your first time on my channel, isn't it?
Yes.
So I tend to coddle women here. Over on Themis's channel, I coddle men, of course, but here I coddle women. Especially when, I think you may have heard me on one of Themis's streams say that when we're having conversation like this, especially a conversation about Black women's femininity, which I feel can be extremely uncomfortable for Black women to have that conversation, especially when it's coming out of the mouthpiece of a Black man. And I feel there can be visceral emotions during this conversation. if you feel like a woman is being disrespectful towards you in the comments, I really do not care. This is a conversation where I feel they are allowed to do so. I would ask you to refrain from engaging in this type of behavior in the comments in the future. The reason I'm extending you grace is because the only thing you said, well, what did she say that made you mad?
Well, I put in a comment saying that I didn't know that you had a channel. And she put in there, don't slum the channel up or something like that. I didn't really take it that serious. I mean,
do you see the comment on screen? Are you on the Roger Reports channel?
Oh, yeah, I go there. I listen to him.
So can you see how when you are associated with a channel like that, there is already disdain towards you when you come to this side of YouTube, where I think most of, if not all of my chat, it's mainly Black women, and you're coming from a channel where they have frequently described Black women as like less than human, as like slave owners and the real oppressor is not the white man. Can you see how coming here from that channel where you are associated with, apparently, I didn't know this, but I didn't even know you were on the Roger Reports channel, but now I understand why there may be this comment towards you. Nia says she told you not to slum it up. And I've spoken about Roger Report and How to Man before. I wouldn't like them over here because that is a degenerate type of behavior I don't want on my channel. So I understand, Marvel, that you feel like you were attacked or you feel like she was playing with you. I'm still not sure your position because you said it was just jokes to you, but then there's you. I don't know. I feel like you took it seriously, and that may be a read, but I would ask you to summarize. I would ask you to refrain from that behavior in the future. If somebody insults you and they do not have a penis, then I would ask you to keep your retort inside.
I agree with that. You're right. And I'm not trying to mess up your channel, nothing like that. I can understand that.
Okay, you have a second chance. That's all I wanted to hear. Do you have anything to add to the conversation we've had outside of this?
I was just gonna say that I can understand how somebody might see, oh, he's on like Roger Report's channel and think that have a way of thinking, okay, this guy, has an issue with Black women, but that's far from the case. What I do is I go and look at different people's channels, and not just the Roger Report. I look at everybody's channels just to try to get like try to understand their perspective and where they're coming from. It is not anything.
Sorry to interrupt. What is the perspective that you get from the Roger Report? Do you feel like you get something productive from there?
Sometimes, sometimes no, sometimes yes. I try to filter out if I feel like they're saying something disrespectful towards Black women, I just kind of put that out of my mind, because I know that's not the way I think. And I also look at it like, a lot of these guys, maybe they weren't lucky enough to have the experiences with Black women that I had. And maybe that's why they feel that way.
Stop you there, because it sounds like you are excusing bad behavior towards Black women. Remember, this is the man who I think just last week said Black women were actually responsible for slavery, and they are actually the oppressor in America, not white men. At least,
yeah, I didn't know he said that, Prince Petty. I really didn't. I haven't been watching it I haven't even been on YouTube for not even a year yet, so I haven't been watching it for a real long time. But I try to, whatever can work for me, like in my personal life, I try to gather that from different channels. I don't go.
Oh yeah, it's sorry to interrupt again. It's not that I don't believe you can take in a message and filter out what's bad and take the good. It's that I am questioning what is the good that you are taking from over there.
Well, the good I try to take from there is, if I feel like there's good women and there's bad women, then I basically try to take from them, okay, if you see certain characteristics in a woman that might not be good, and it doesn't matter what race she is, and you see that might not be good, then leave her alone. Or I also take from them is they talk about being married a lot. I have 2 children, and I would like to have a wife one day, but I haven't really been as fortunate to really be in that position where I had a wife. And I guess I'm kind of old fashioned. I'm very old fashioned, and a lot of the things that some of those guys from different channels say, it kind of registers with me. It registers with me because I'm an old fashioned guy. I seen my father taking care of my mother. I seen my grandmother taking care of my grandfather, and vice versa. I seen all those things. I don't know what it is really to have like a broken family or anything like that. So when I look at my situation, I feel, kind of bad because I have my 2 children and they have like no mother. They have their mothers, but they see their father with no wife.
So
And
before you get too far into this, I think someone said you're being very vague. I'm not sure what specifically it is that you're getting that's positive from over there. I also have a question about, I've been over there before. The only time I have come up is to do what I feel like is policing men who are way past my age and should already have good moral and ethic instilled in them, but did not. Do you ever go up to address this type of, because you come up on Themis's channel a lot, and you're even up here now to discuss your ideas, do you ever go up on their panel and provide pushback against this type of you admitted there is a strong toxic element to their channel? Do you ever provide any pushback against this?
probably not as much as I should. If I see somebody in the comment section saying B or H or something like that, then I'll say, hey, don't do that. Or especially if I know, if I've like dealt with that lady before, and I know for a fact this is a good woman, don't do that. And I'll say that, hey, don't do that. That's a good woman. And I've told people before. Now, I'm not always on here all the time, but I do tune in to the Themis's channel. And but whenever I'm on there, if I see something that doesn't look right, I try my best to address it. Because I know, because the thing about it is, I've actually had more women on YouTube show me more of a positive, give me positive feedback. I've had more of that than I've had women giving me negative feedback. So if I keep in mind who those women are. So if I know for a fact, I know that these are good women, like no matter what. Now the women I don't know, I mean, if I see them being disrespected, I'm still gonna say something. But if I know that this woman has dealt with me, or we've went back and forth with each other, and she's not dogging me and trying to make me, oh, you're a black man, so I have to put you down.
I want to pose my question again. Have you ever gone up on the Roger Report when they're spreading the type of hateful rhetoric that they do and voiced opposition to that?
I have not gone on their panel. Not as yet. Not as. No, I haven't currently gone on their panel. No.
But you say you were in the comments policing.
Yeah. Yes, I was.
So Marvel, since we are providing you grace today, I feel, in my opinion, to see something like that and say nothing, I feel like is a failure to police the community. But since we are providing grace to you today, I would like for the next time they have a live stream, if you see something, I would very much like to see you up there saying something against the type of hateful rhetoric that they spread, because you were loud in my comments today to express your disdain with Black women. You even came up here, and before you retracted and said, you know what, Black women have never done nothing bad to me too much. So you were expressing your disdain with Black women up here. So I would like to see you express your disdain towards these men and their behavior, because if you have the boldness to come up here and do this towards Black women, I would like you to apply that to Black men as well. Otherwise, to me, it would feel unequal to me for you to only be, usually I only see you over at Themis and now over here addressing women and the issue you have with women. So I would like to see you apply that same policing towards the men. In fact, I'd like you to leave the women alone like altogether, but I don't think you're going to do that. So what I would request is that you police the men and focus more on that.
See, that's the thing, Prince Petty. I don't show disdain towards black women. I don't. Like whenever only thing that I do is I do say I don't like divesting. I do say I want black women to be with black men. That's all I ever say. I don't say
Wait,
anything. I've never disrespectful. I never call names. I don't do. I have a daughter, so I don't do that stuff.
wait,
Now,
I'm
for
sorry. I'm
somebody to,
sorry to apology. I'm sorry to hyperfixate. You said you don't like divestment. Have you been listening to our have you listened to the entire conversation we've had today, or did you just hop in kind of towards the end?
I hopped in towards the end. Yes.
So also, when I asked you, did you have any final thoughts? I was talking about what we were discussing, not I guess the Roger report and that stuff, but whatever. To kind of get back on topic, and again, sorry to cut you off early. That seems rude. You have a distaste for the divestment crowd. Why?
I do. I admit that. Yes, I do.
Why?
I've and like I know some women, not all, and I've had some women support me. Some women don't want to hear this, but I just feel like black men love black women the most. And I know some women hear that and they don't believe it, but I believe it. I
Are
believe it.
you
I believe.
are you aware of the black femicide rates, or also the absentee father rates in the black community, or any rates of sexual violence, intimate partner
I, I've
violence?
I've heard about it from Theme has talked about it, and it's been talked about on uh, other panels. So I've heard people talking about it.
So when we have this community where one black woman every 5.5 hours is dying, usually at the hands of a black man, an intimate partner, or when we have extremely high domestic violence rates, when we have a statistic like, I believe the most recent I looked this up was during my abortion video, but the amount of black women who face some form of sexual trauma or assault, specifically, no, not specifically, or sexual coercion before the age of 18 is something like 50 to 60% of black women. Again, this is just before the age of 18. And usually all of this type of degenerate behavior towards them is from black men. How can you say that black men as a collective love black women? Or would you call this love?
No, no, that's definitely not love. But I just maybe it's me being biased in a way. I just that's all I ever see. Now, I would never disregard women that have experienced anything like that, any trauma,
No, but
especially.
do you see how you would have to disregard all of that? It's not like a small portion of the black women that experience this. It's the fact that I can look to my left and right when I go to work or when I go to school or within my friend group or my family. And to the left and right of me, there every black woman I know has some sort of negative experience with a black woman. And statistically, again, when we look on paper, this is a majority of black women who have this type of issue that a majority of black men do to them. Do you see how when you say, I don't want to ignore these women's plights, you would have to ignore the collective of black women to say that black men love them? And I would ask you, like Drea Spear said in the comments, love as evidenced by what behavior?
I mean, I would we could as a collective as black men. I know we could do better, and I know that is wrong for that to be going on. I can't make an excuse for it. Um, I have to just try to my best to prevent it starting it in my community, and then hopefully talk to other people and help them understand. Hey, black women are really going through it, and you know, it really gets to me, because all I know is you have your black woman and you protect her, even if you have to give your life. And I've always lived by that. I see my father live by that. I see my whole family live by that. And sometimes I get caught up in what I see here, that I'm around, as opposed to what's really going on all around the world. And I understand where you're coming from. There's no excuse for that. You know,
So it's
and
not that
we have to do better.
it's not that I want you to like fly around the world and stop all black men from doing blah blah blah. And I understand that our biases can affect us. Like I said months ago when I first found Themis, there's this type of I'm a good black man, my friends are good black men. I don't see any of this. There's this type of ignoring that even I was doing before I see the data. So even that, I find it a poor excuse, but I can understand how you say within my vicinity, I don't see it. But then you describe to me how you go over to this place, this channel where they describe black women as slave owners, and you do not go up to police. And you told me you've never gone up to police. And I don't know that you have an interest in going up to do so. Like Nia said in the comments, the language you hear towards black women on that channel should offend you. It should at least make you want to speak up. So for you to say that I have this love for black women, I really sympathize with what you guys are going through. But then to see black women literally being slandered over there, like they are dragged through the mud for literally everything. If they have a job, if they don't have a job, if they did something, didn't do something, they will ascribe a stereotype to them that doesn't exist. For you to see this and do nothing, again, can you call that love and caring for black women if you let this type of thing go unchecked right in front of you?
I mean, looking back on it as a collective, nah, that's not how you show love. I can admit that.
So
You know,
going back to what I said earlier, would you be willing to go up on one of their panels? It doesn't have to be them specifically. I'm just using them because you said you're over there, and I do monitor at times. Obviously, the people in the comments know I monitor at times what they're talking about. Would you be willing to go up there and provide pushback, provide a voice from a black man who says he loved black women and want to protect black women and feel sympathy for these things that black women go through? Will you go up there to push back against this type of slander that they're doing towards black women?
well, Prince Petty, I'll say it like this. If I know that it's just, if the guys are just saying just some blasphemous, out of control nonsense, I'll go up there and I'll let them know, hey, that come on, don't do that. Now, if it's something that, you know, that is just kind of just so obviously not true that is laughable, then I'll just be like, okay, you know, all right. But if it's just out of control, if it's just something that's just, if I cringe when I hear it, then I will go up there and say something about it.
The only time I have seen them speak, it's usually to be extremely dismissive of things like black femicide or things like absentee father rates, and find ways to turn issues that are caused by men on black women. So again, I would be inquisitive as to what is it that you're seeing up there that you don't find outlandish. Literally last week, they were talking about women are slave owners. I do not know anything more outlandish than that. Then they were kind of fabricating education rates, finance rates between black men. Like a lot of it was just insane to me. I do not know at what point would you call it extremely, like at what point would you call it worthy of your presence up there to push back? And I would even say what you said about, oh, if it's obviously a lie, then I'm not going to address that. I would want to address that part the most. Like if they're saying something like all black women commit crimes, black women have a crime rate of 100%, that make me want to go up and push back even more, especially when they have like hundreds, thousands of men in the comments like, hell yeah, they're saying what we wish we could say.
Well, Prince Petty, to be honest, the slave owning thing, that would make me want to go up there and say something. I didn't even know they said that. I didn't hear that. I did not know that. If I had heard that, I would have went up there. Now, women committing 100% of the crimes. I mean, we all black women doing that. We know that's obviously.
No, they do not know that. They will, their chat and the men on their panel will be up there like, hell yeah, somebody finally telling the truth. These are the people I feel like we need to go educate and push back on the most. So I understand what you're saying. Obviously, I know it's false. Everybody here know it's false, but they do not. They genuinely believe this in their heart. That is why when you say, oh, it's blasphemous, who cares about that? I would want you to care about that the most.
I understand what you mean. I mean, I can't argue with that. I guess I just sometimes when I'm in the comments, they'll say some people will say certain things, and the women won't even take it seriously. They'll just wave it off and just be like, you know what, that's stupid. You know, they'll just wave. Now I know there are some things that make women, you know, become offended. That make them that end up making them feel offended if it's said. And I believe like that
I don't
slave
want
owner
to.
thing.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I don't want to address the women, their thoughts, and how they are in the chat. If they're over there and they're like, "This is disgusting," I don't care. What I care about is the men who are in the comments over there who are saying he speaks for all of us.
Okay, I
That's
understand.
who I want you to go over and police and look at them and fight back and push back against that. And I do want to see you up on their next panel.
I give you my word. If it's out of control, Prince Petty, I will be up there.
If
I
it's
will
out of
be up
control, I think they're all out of control. So I need you up on their next panel.
there. Trust me. Like if anything like that slave owner thing, that's just ridiculous. I mean, somebody. If I'd have been there, I would have said something. And if it's anything like that, that I just know that's just I that person that would say something like that, they do hate black women, you know, and that's a clear fact. I
They
believe
do. That's why
they do.
again, before we get too far from this, everything that they have said is outlandish to me and extremely slanderous towards black women. So when you say, "Oh, if the next time they might happen to say no," I want you to be on the next panel and push back. After you have just acknowledged the host of that show seemed like he hate black women, I don't see why there is any criteria at all for you to go up there and offer some protection or policing of other black men.
I want to say something. I think what people should question is
Your microphone
I
cut out.
think, sorry, I think actually, I mean, you as a man, you can answer that, right? Most men, when they feel threatened, whatever form of threaten that is, they do become an aggressor, right? So if someone is promoting that women are an aggressor to man, then that would therefore lead to a feeling of needing to fight. So who would they be fighting, right? And I think to just say words are words, this is not true because words have meaning and they have clout. And I think just on a geopolitical level, if we think about how propaganda and words have disrupted countries, have created coup d'etats, like these men who are spewing these things are only influencing younger men, right? To be a certain way. So at the end of the day, it's only going to be a downward spiral. So if you're promoting aggression towards women, and women are the type of creatures that when they see aggression, they run from it, that means that there will be more women running away from black men, right? I mean, that's just my because I hear a lot of women talking about, I've heard these younger women like me. I'm an older woman, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like, yeah, a lot of black men scare me. Like I'm a warm and outgoing person, but I've come to the point where I just kind of stay in my house and I kind of don't want to interact because of that fear and those words. And they're not even coming from other people, they're coming from your own mouths, right? So they're not in your favor. Like and I think, like, to something that somebody else said earlier on another live, I think some of these men that are promoting these things are really trying to separate these younger men from the opportunity of having women so that they can have more for themselves, right? Like it's almost kind of like when you see those old Mormon men, like they have all the women and the younger men have no opportunity, like the whole education isn't important. So now you have a lot of black guys saying, well, education is not really important, you don't really need it. But you guys are getting kind of duped and pimped out and you don't even realize it. That's just my opinion.
Did you have anything to say to that, Marvel?
I understand exactly what she's saying. It's there's no reason for the brothers that conduct themselves in that way to be hateful towards black women. I mean, I don't understand why. I don't know what the reason is for that. Of course, I'm not like that. I don't have a reason to feel like that. So it does make me feel bad when I see, you know, black women, the women I love more than anything, to have to go through things like that. And like, you know, I feel like it breaks my heart because men, we can handle that stuff. You know, I'm an old fashioned country boy. You know, we practice, you know, old fashioned values. And don't get me wrong. I've had, you know, women dog me out, don't even know me, dogging me out. And I don't, I just laugh it off. It doesn't bother me because I know if I really carry that around, and then I got to turn around and raise my daughter and raise my son, you know, that would be like, Daddy, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Like, why would you ever think that, these women hate you? You know, and I'm like, you know, I would never want to bring that to my children. I would never want to bring that to my children's mother, you know. And so I feel like as men, we can take it. You talk bad about us, you dog us, you call us the worst things in the world. We can take that. You know, we're men. We're supposed to take that. Women shouldn't have to deal with that. And it does break my heart. And I know some people will hear me and they'll say, whatever, he's just saying stuff. He doesn't mean it. I mean, if if some of these women were actually with me all the time and see me with my children and see me dealing with their mothers and see me dealing with all the black women in my life, they would truly understand. You know what? This man loves black women. He's not just saying things just to hear himself talk. You know,
But
but it's like,
I think one of the main complaints is when I'm trying to push you to go over here and speak out against these black men who are extremely aggressive towards black women.
I
It's like
understand.
a back and forth between me and you about,
Yeah.
there's like, well, if they say something that I think is bad, and I mean, I guess if I, maybe if you are a good black man towards the black women in your life, that is great. I would like to see you go up and police black men.
I know what you mean. And
And when you
I know
said,
what you mean. I
then I'm
do.
gonna let you go. Sorry. When you said these women may think that I'm not standing on my word or I'm being disingenuous or something like that, again, I would say that as well. If you are here talking to us, or you'll go over to Themis and you'll talk to him, where is your presence in these communities of men who are extremely aggressive towards black women, where I feel your presence is most needed?
I can honestly say I have two daughters, and like when I hear a lot of, well, the majority, right? I don't think it's everybody, but I think there's a loud procession of men that speak up so much more, and there's so much that are not speaking up against it or like quieting it. Because I know, like in certain communities, like let's say if it's like the Jewish community, right? Jewish men would like shun certain men like that or put a certain stop to certain things. And I think because there's a desperation to have some kind of brotherhood, sometimes you're becoming the brother of a menace or a devil incarnate. But like me as someone that has two daughters, and I don't know if I can speak for a lot of black women, but a lot of us are not necessarily promoting that whole black love thing. You know what I mean? Like I mean, I was never a believer of it anyway. I'm already a foreign person, so
Are you
just
saying?
coming here.
I'm sorry. I just want to clarify. Are you saying a lot of black women aren't promoting self-love and stuff like that?
No, I mean like relationships. Like I feel like back in the day when I was younger, like there was like this whole like go to black man club, go to black man get on a black man thing. I don't think this generation of women are doing that, and that's going to have ramifications. They're not doing that one, but on top of it, I think a lot of the kids in this generation that are evidently black are very conscious about a lot of aggressions that they didn't see before, or maybe our generation were silenced about. So, just naturally speaking, in terms of a nature protecting yourself, you're not gonna want to be around what scares you. And I think that is the bigger picture. Like all these men are talking about all this stuff and submission, all this stuff. Like I don't think that they realize that they are promoting scariness. Like, and it's on such a bigger level. Like even if you watch, I stopped watching hip hop videos or, music videos a long time ago. Like, because it's just like, why do we always have to be this thing? And I think a lot of people are under this assumption, maybe it's because it's a form of demasculization, like the girl was saying about before, that Black women are not scared. And I think the reason why, like, even now when you talk about like a lot of Black women being single and unmarried, and everybody predicates it on it's because they're going to school. But I'm like, did anybody stop to think that these same Black girls are traumatized Black girls from their dads and the families before that probably cannot imagine putting themselves in these positions, which is a good thing, right? So them this generation of men promoting the same thing, it's not necessarily going to change that factor, right? They're just doubling down, and women are just like, yeah, that's just a lost cause. Like, I'm just gonna forget about that. Like, and at the rate and the population of Black people here in the United States, me as a person that comes from a whole Black country, it ain't that many people. Like, you have the options are many. Like, when you just said like you hate divestors, it made me wonder, do you hate Black men that are divestors, or is it just Black women?
So
It's not that I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Christian.
You can go ahead.
It's not I say hate, but it's not literally hate. It's heartache more than anything, because I've been lucky enough to be, I was in the military. I've lived all around the world. I've seen how things can be in that way of life. And I've seen, I've heard people say crazy things. I've had friends and they knew how I thought. They would say, I would have this one guy I'm still friends with him, but a while back he would say, all I want to be with is white women. And I'd say, hey, you know what, just get away from me. I'm not with that.
Yeah, but
And
is your level of disdain for the men that do it the same as the women? Because before, when you mentioned it, you said women that are. You didn't really mention men that are. And what I find in a lot of around a lot of Black men is that they say, well, it hurts me to see women. They don't really say it hurts me to see men. And I think that's probably because, like, it's like knowing that you have a blankie sitting there for you, even though it's raggedy and torn and you don't wash it and you don't care for it. But it's like, yep, but I still want that blankie to sit right there. And women are not blankies, right? Like,
y'all not.
yeah, we are like, if we're talking about purpose, right? Like, let's be honest, if we're talking about purpose and we're talking about religion and faith, because I hear a lot of people talk about that, right? The main purpose of a woman is to procreate, but it is to procreate in safety, right? And if we're
Yeah.
honest, the environment for Black women is not in safety. So then you can't say that you're religious and they're not getting married and and then you just allocate it to Black men because they're not in safety. It has to be in safety. And I could say this even for me. Like, I'm from a whole different country. Like, my country, I mean, Haiti's like practically in shithole mode right now. Like, people are getting killed, girls are getting like kidnapped and raped and everything. And for me, it's scary to see it here, because to me it seems like Black America is a microcosm of what is a macrocosm, macro in my own country. And I maybe because I seen in different countries too that are Black, I don't just follow Black news, right? It's other news in different countries too, and it's that same paradigm. Like, from my perspective, right? You have all these Black men running to a whole white country, right, to get a visa, to do that, like, and then at the same time they're complaining. Okay, well, here you have the same, like, Black men, like, oh, we want snow bunnies, and you're still running. Like, my thing is, you're running and you're not standing, but you want everyone to be like, oh, healthy, right? And that's not fair, because we're women, right? Our main purpose is to make sure, at the end of the day, like, I understand that I'm Black, but at the end of the day, whatever child I have is going to be mine. and
Yeah.
I'm going to want it to be in safety. And my child, if they have a kid, whether it's biracial, whatever, they're going to be still part of my bloodline. And I still want them. I want my daughter to feel like she has a husband that's going to value her and see her in safety, and not necessarily see her as this rest of it. Because I hear a lot of Black men talk about Black women not being submissive, and I think that's such a lie. Like, you know, I see
So,
Black American
Valerie,
women that cook everything.
Valerie, I apologize for interrupting. I am going to have to cut you both short. I have a
Sorry, go
therapy
ahead.
in about 10 to 15 minutes that I will need to leave for shortly. And I
Okay,
also
bye.
don't want to intrude on Vitamin Q's live stream too much. So I'm going to put her link down in the comments. I'm going to give you both a minute to speak. I'm going to give you a minute, Valerie. Marvel, I'm going to give you 2 minutes if you want to respond to anything.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead. Go ahead, Valerie, if you want to wrap up.
Yeah,
Sorry to
I
interrupt
mean,
again.
no, it's okay. I mean, I just basically want to say, like, at the end of the day, men can't get angry at Black women for wanting safety for the womb or the child that they might want to procreate, if they decide to procreate, right? At the end of the day, that is our most important purpose, and that is like a humanity purpose, to create safety and it be an environment of safety for our child, no matter the color, the biracial, or whatever it comes out of. And the job of men is to not create wars and try to have like some semblance of safety. Like, if that's not there, that's like Maslow's theory. If it's not there, it doesn't matter anything that you're saying about how much you care or want. You understand? That's it.
Thank you, Valerie. Marvel, if you want to respond to her or anything that I said or the comments or the live stream, you have 2 minutes.
All right. First, Prince Petty, thanks for giving me the opportunity to come up and speak. Um, I know we're in a crisis right now, and brothers have to do a better job of protecting their women. Um, I'm old fashioned, so I honestly believe in keeping the woman close to you at as much as you can. And I know some women say that's not the way to do it, but I believe that's what. So I believe we're at a point in life that's what we have to do. You don't want your woman being scared of you. You want her to feel protected with you and feel the love. And we need to do a better job. I can't make any excuses. We have to do a better job as a collective. Um, I hope that I can try to make a good example for other Black men to take care of their women and be there for them. Empathize with them and understand that they have it harder than we do as Black men. I think sometimes we think about ourselves too much as Black men and don't think about our women enough. Um, I'm gonna try to keep doing what I've been doing. I'm gonna try to spread the word, try to help more people understand that this isn't right. And I wasn't trying to talk down on the divestment community, but I just don't believe that's where a Black woman should have her eyes focused on. I feel like we love our women the most, even though we're not showing it at this particular time. And I know we have to do better. And Prince Petty, you opened my eyes to this. I really thought about it in the short time that we've been on. So I thank you for the opportunity, and I'm gonna try to do better.
Okay, I would encourage you to go back, since you said you hopped in later, go back and rewatch this live stream. Um, Raz and I'm gonna put Raz's she said go follow her on Instagram. If you guys liked anything that she said today, that is her Instagram. She said put it up, sure. Um, I would encourage you to go back and listen to me and her conversation about what has been going on in the Black community for a long time. Um, we talked specifically about masculinization, but a lot of what me and you talked about ties into that. There's this type of disrespect that Black men do towards Black women widespread. And you cannot say, I will not accept you saying, we love Black women, we just don't show it. in that you don't love Black women in that case, in my opinion. If you do love Black women, if you love your family, your children, and you see these Black men congregating in this setting, like I told you on the Roger Report, I would encourage you to go up there, make your voice known, and make it known that you disagree with these men. Because if it was my daughter living in a community like this and I saw men doing some degenerate stuff like that, I could not sit and be quiet. I have actually got up there once before. I've stopped. Again, I have a much needed therapy appointment coming up in like 10 minutes, which
I understand.
keep your mental peace. I'm not telling you to disturb your mental peace, but I do not think you should remain comfortable if you are consuming content from a space like that and you are saying you are comfortable enough to not come up and speak out against it. That would be concerning towards me. Like I said earlier, we are extending grace today. We had a conversation today in which I feel we are showing a vulnerable side of Black women. And in my opinion, it is not your place as a Black man to feel comfortable in this conversation. It's in their place. If you feel uncomfortable, I will tell you what I have told white men when they come in, listen in on the conversation that I have about white oppression and how they feel uncomfortable with the way that we discuss white men and talk about them. Like you said, you felt with Nia. It is not your place to feel comfortable during this conversation. And I would ask that you not do that again. And that grace, again, is dependent on you going up there and making your voice known because you did that today. So I would like you to extend that to the men as well. Do you find that acceptable? Is that something you can do?
Yeah. I mean, you was fair. You've been fair with me the whole time. You didn't, take any low blows or anything like that. You let me have the opportunity to say what I felt like I need to say, and you were real understanding. So I have no reason to, just feel any kind of way except, just keep my word on what I told you. And you like I say, everything was fair. I appreciate you letting me come up and speak. I really do.
And also today is Women Centered Wednesday, if you didn't know, where we discuss Black women and try to keep the conversation women centric, which we failed to do in the after show, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So again, if you come up on Wednesday and you see Black women in the comments dragging you, stick your chest up and stick it out and stand up straight and take it. That
Yes,
is
sir.
a requirement here. With that being said, I'm going to thank you for coming up and explaining yourself. And I will be, how about you send me an email? My email is public. It should be in all of my end screens. And I'll send you a link to the next Roger Report show. And I expect you to be there. And if you show up, I might even show up too. With that being said, I'm going to remove you now. Thank you for coming
Yes,
up.
sir. I appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
All right. You too, Prince Petty. Thanks.
With that being said, guys, Vitamin Q's live stream is on now. I do apologize for taking up so much time. Let me make sure that's pinned to the top over here. I think it's pinned to the top, guys, but let me drop it one more time. Please go over there and show her some love. If you don't feel like watching it, at least leave a like or a comment and show your appreciation since it is Women Centered Wednesday. I think I've taken up enough time. Everybody have a good evening. I'm going to go and get some much needed therapy now. Goodbye.